Okay, so we're going to pick up then. Very end, we'll say, Boggart in the wardrobe. Harry and Hermione don't get to take their shot against the Boggart. And Lupin gives Harry and Hermione each 5 points. Right? Harry's like, but I didn't do anything. You answered a question correctly. Right? He and Hermione both did. And Harry's kind of like, it's not quite the same. Ron makes a comment at the very end of the chapter. Right? Hermione's like, man, he seems like a very good teacher, but I wish I could have had a turn with the Boggart. Ron, what would it have been for you? A piece of homework that only got 9 out of 10? Now, we could skip to, not quite the end, but nearly the end, 3/4 of the way through, where they have their end of year exams, and Hermione has her attempt with the Boggart, because Lupin's exam is they have to defeat a Boggart in a wardrobe, essentially. What's Hermione's do? What's Hermione's Boggart?
She failed all her classes.
There's McGonagall appears, showing Hermione she failed all of her classes. So Ron was pretty close, in terms of his surmising, let's say. Fly to the Fat Lady. We're going to skip a bit. Okay. We find out page 143, Gryffindor hasn't won for 7 years in a row the Quidditch Cup. Okay. They won the House Cup first year because Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and Neville get points for finding the Philosopher's Stone and such. Previous year, they don't get anything essentially. This year, they're going to be up possibly for a House Cup. We're going to skip a bunch. So they have their Quidditch match. And Harry asks Lupin, before the Quidditch match, page 155, why didn't you let me fight the Boggart? Lupin says, I thought it would be obvious. Harry, what? Well, I assumed when the Boggart came out, it would take the form of Lord Voldemort. And Harry's surprised because he uses the name. Okay? Lupin, clearly I was wrong. Harry, I didn't think of Voldemort. I remembered the Dementors. Wow, Harry, I'm impressed. Suggests what you fear most of all is fear. Very wise, Harry. So you've been thinking I didn't think you capable of fighting the Boggart. Well, yeah. Okay. Snape comes in, bringing a potion for Lupin. Harry kind of thinks, don't drink it, don't drink it, don't drink it. And Lupin explains that Snape's been doing that for him. Doesn't say what it is. So, we find out at the very end of the chapter why the chapter is called The Flight of the Fat Lady. Who is the Fat Lady, first of all?
The poster, or the big portrait in front of the Gryffindor dormitory.
The portrait that's in the doorway, in the door, to the Gryffindor common room. Notice, this is the first time we're introduced to this. And it's the first time that it's implied in book 2 when Harry and Ron take the Polyjuice Potion and turn it into Crab and Goyle. They've got to go down to the Slytherin common room and figure out how to get through the door. And they sneak in behind somebody, if I remember correctly. But it's the first time we're introduced to this, really introduced to this idea of passwords to get into your own dormitory. Okay? What happened to the Fat Lady?
She disappeared.
Well, the painting was slashed, so she left, which is kind of weird because, she's in the paint, but apparently not. Yeah, just make sure everybody signs that. So, She flees. She's been attacked. Why was she attacked / how was she attacked? What's the root cause of her being attacked?
Because she wouldn't let Willow was trying to get in.
Okay. So they find her picture and such. Grim defeat. Hold on, trying to find the actual spot. Page 178-79. Okay. Stay there. My book is so messed up. Falls all over. Who shows up at the Quidditch match? Bottom of 178, 179. About 100 Dementors. Okay? So, Harry's flying around. Who are they playing? Gryffindor and Hufflepuff. Because who's the captain of Hufflepuff?
Cedric Diggory.
Pretty boy, you know. GQ model, as it were. At 13, 14 years old. He's a year older, I think it is. So, Harry looks down and there's about 100 Dementors. And he starts to pass out, but before he does, he hears, not Harry, please, not Harry. Top of 179. Stand aside, you silly girl, stand aside now. Not Harry, please, no, take me, kill me instead. Not Harry, please, have mercy. And Harry falls, okay? Lands on the ground, doesn't have any broken bones or anything. Cedric Diggory gets the snitch. What happens to his Nimbus 2000?
It gets destroyed.
Beat into matchsticks by the Whomping Willow, okay? So, 184, 185. Who's the stand-in teacher for Defense Against the Dark Arts? Where's Lupin? He's ill, okay? Or he was ill, sorry. 184, 185. And what did the students explain to Lupin? Snape assigned us an essay on werewolves. We don't know anything about werewolves. Okay? Don't worry. I'll speak to Professor Snape. You don't have to do the essay. Hermione already finished it. That's pretty clear. Harry and Ron didn't do it. Okay? So, 186. Lupin holds Harry back for a moment. Says, I want to talk. Heard about the match. Sorry to hear about your broomstick. Any chance of fixing it? No. Tree smashed it to bits. They planted the Whomping Willow the same year that I arrived at Hogwarts. People used to play a game trying to get near enough to touch the trunk. In the end, a boy called Davy Gudgeon nearly lost an eye, and we were forbidden to go near it. No broomstick would have had a chance. Okay? So notice, he gives all this history. I know it's all kind of brief, but he gives us history of the tree for what purpose? Ostensibly, to explain your broomstick didn't have a chance. Harry already knows the broomstick didn't have a chance, right? What happened to the Ford Anglia that flew into it? Got the crap beat out of it. Or the oil, I guess, beat out of it. Okay? Why else is the history given?
So,
2 reasons.
know that you can reach the trunk.
Okay, you can reach the trunk. Why else? He says it was planted the year I came to Hogwarts. That's going to lead to another reason. And kids used to try to play a game to get close enough to the trunk to touch it. We're going to find out a practical joke was played on someone. Okay? We'll talk about that later. That's going to cause repercussions, let's just call it that, from when that practical joke was attempted. So, Harry asked, did you hear about the Dementor? Yep. Never seen Dumbledore so angry. Why do they affect me like that? That is, why do I pass out when Neville doesn't? Nothing to do with weakness, says Lupin. As though he had read Harry's mind. We're never actually told later that he can, but wouldn't surprise me. The Dementors affect you worse than the others because there are horrors in your past that the others don't have. What are the horrors in Harry's past that the others don't have?
His parents getting murdered.
His parents being murdered in front of his very eyes. Well, one of them at least. He didn't see the first one's murder. What else?
Voldemort. He had to defeat Voldemort twice already.
Book 1, book 2. Okay. What else?
The Dursleys are abusive.
Dursleys. I mean, you could just throw that out there. Okay. And he goes on to talk about Dementors. They're among the foulest creatures that walk this earth. They infest the darkest, filthiest places. They glory in decay and despair. They drain peace, hope, and happiness out of the air around them. Even muggles feel their presence, though they can't see them. Get too near a Dementor, every good feeling, every happy memory will be sucked out of you. If it can, the Dementor will feed on you long enough to reduce you to something like itself, soulless and evil. And I think the second word there flows from the first one. If it is soulless, if it lacks a soul, it's evil. Not like this lacks a soul, therefore it's evil. You know, if the living, breathing, sentient thing that lacks a soul, then it becomes evil. All right? He says, and the worst that happened to you, Harry, is enough to make anyone fall off a broom. You shouldn't feel ashamed. When they get near, I can hear Voldemort murdering my mama. Lupin makes a sudden motion, as though to grip Harry's shoulder, but doesn't. Why'd they come to the match? They're getting hungry, etc. Okay? Harry's like, but Sirius Black escaped from them. Lupin, yep, he did. Must have found a way to fight them off. Harry, you made one disappear. Can you teach me? Lupin, okay, I'll try. Have to wait till next term, okay? So, Fred and George come up to Harry, 190, 191, and they give him the Marauder's map. Why?
So Harry can sneak into Hogsmeade.
Okay, so Harry can go to Hogsmeade. That's not the literal reason they give him. I mean, they give him a literal reason. They tell Harry, your need is greater than ours. How so? Do they need the map to get in it? They know all the passages in and out of Hogwarts. All the hidden passages. Okay? So they've got it memorized. So they're like, this is what you do, Harry. Tap it with the wand and say, I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good. And what happens? So, blank piece of parchment. Tap it, say those words, and words magically appear. What should be Harry's first reaction? Think about this for a second. What other thing has Harry seen that's blank that all of a sudden has words come out of it?
Voldemort's diary.
Tom Riddle / Voldemort's diary. Shouldn't he at this point go, nope, don't want to thank you, keep it. He does start to think later on, what did Mr. Malfoy say? Never trust something that you don't know where it keeps its brains. Okay? So, Messrs. Mooney. Oh man, I've been doing this all morning. Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, purveyors of aids to magical mischief makers, are proud to present the Marauder's Map. What's a marauder? No, not a person. They may travel as part of their marauding. What do you do when you are marauding?
Causing trouble?
A little more extensive than just causing trouble. You know the greatest marauders kind of in history? We don't call them the marauders. We call them Vikings. What did the Vikings do? Back in the 8th to about the 11th, 12th centuries. Pillaged, looted, murdered, raped. Not necessarily in that order. Okay? Those were marauders. They go in, they take what they want, and they destroy kind of everything else. Our Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, those kinds of marauders, no, they're not doing any raping. They're not doing, they're doing a little pillaging, a little bit of looting. Because what can you do with this map?
You can see where everyone is.
Which means you can also then go places where other people aren't. What else does it do? It shows you every location in Hogwarts. Does Harry know where the kitchens are at this point?
No.
But with the map, he can go down to the kitchens whenever he wants. Okay? So, they show Harry how one of the passages leads directly to Hogsmeade. It doesn't show Hogsmeade on the map because Hogsmeade isn't in the boundaries of Hogwarts. It doesn't show, I don't believe, I could be wrong. It doesn't show where the entrance that goes into the Whomping Willow exits. Okay? But we'll find that out later. So, Harry gets it. He thinks of what Mr. Weasley said, and he uses it. Goes off into Honeydukes. Sits next to Ron and Hermione. Surprises them. And they go off to the Three Broomsticks. Pages 200 and following. Harry stays under the invisibility cloak. They kind of move a couple of the Christmas trees that are decorating around, so it kind of hides them. We meet Madame Rosmerta, who, by the way, the name Rosmerta is the name of a Celtic goddess of hospitality. What does Madame Rosmerta do? Now she would be called a server. 20 years ago, she would be called a waitress. She brings drinks. She shows hospitality. So Rowling takes a character from mythology and just plops it right into where this character would fit. Okay? So Harry, Ron, and Hermione are sitting there around the table, Harry under his cloak. Who comes in? We could almost list all of them. McGonagall,
Flitwick, Fudge, Hagrid.
Fudge, Hagrid. Anybody else? And they sit there and they start ordering drinks. Hagrid is, a gallon. And who comes and participates in the conversation? Madame Rosmerta. So, they're all sitting at one table, trees between. There's another table, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are sitting here. Okay. Rosmerta talks about the Dementors are bad for business. 203, they start talking about why the Dementors are there. It's because of Sirius Black. And bottom of 203, McGonagall says, you say you remember him at Hogwarts, Rosmerta? Do you remember who his best friend was? Naturally. Never saw one without the other. Sirius Black, James Potter. And what do Harry's until I do. Whoop. So what is going to happen over the next several pages?
Harry's gonna find out that Sirius Black was his godfather, close friends with Lily and James, and he was their secret keeper essentially. Basically, Sirius Black was essentially picked as the only person who knew where Harry's parents were, and he gave it up to Voldemort, and that's how Harry's parents died.
So, Harry's godfather, best man at their wedding, Lily's and James's wedding, betrayed his parents to Voldemort. How does Harry gain this information?
Eavesdropping.
He eavesdrops. I think we talked the other day, something about eavesdropping. What do you do when you, or let me put it this way. How reliable is information you get from eavesdropping?
Not very.
You don't get all of them.
You don't get all of it. And that we see that from book 1 on. Harry overheard Quirrell and Snape. And what does he assume? What does he interpret? Because everything you hear, you have to interpret. He interprets it to mean Snape was pressuring Quirrell to get the stone. And it was just the other way around. Okay? So he hears all this information. And ultimately, what is the problem with it?
Completely false.
Louder?
It's completely false.
It's not completely
No,
false.
no, it's
What part of it is false?
that Sirius Black didn't betray them.
The most important part. Sirius Black was Harry's godfather. True or false?
True.
True. Sirius Black was James's best man at his wedding. True or false? True. Sirius Black was James's best friend. True. Lupin wasn't. How do we know that? Not yet. Find out book 5. Actually, find out book 4. Sirius Black moved in with the Potters. Left home. Ran away. Age 16. I think it was 16. Okay? And the Potters welcomed him in with open arms. All right? All of that is true. The only false part is he didn't betray them to Lord Voldemort. Okay? So he listens to all of this conversation. What kind of information is this that's being revealed? Does the general public know that Sirius Black was James Potter's best friend, best man, godfather to his son? Secret keeper? No. Those would almost be considered kind of what?
Like if you're in their circles, you would know.
Okay.
Well, at the very least,
Possibly.
the best friend part. Like the best friend part, you would know.
Aren't these kind of, I'm not being literal, that's what I'm saying, kind of. Similar to, aren't these kind of like state secrets?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, who's revealing this information?
Minister of Magic.
The president. Okay? This would be like Joe Biden going, Baskin Robbins, big old ice cream in his hand, and he starts blurting out to the server. This kind of stuff. Not a good picture. Okay? Fudge. Fudges things up. Okay? Or you could throw in an N to the F part of the word. So, bottom of 209. So they think Black is at Hogwarts. Why? They, not Harry, Ron, Fudge, McGonagall, Flitwick, Hagrid. It's Fudge that tells them what happened the last time he was at Azkaban. He saw Sirius Black. And how did he behave?
Pretty calmly.
Totally normally. In fact, Sirius Black saw that Fudge had a copy of the Daily Prophet under his arm, sticking in his pocket, and he was like, if you're done, do you mind? Right? You know, kind of like to do the crosswords or something. And Fudge is like, okay. Because how is everybody else in Azkaban?
Bad.
Crazy.
They've lost their minds because of the effect of the Dementors. He's not sure why. He just kept saying. What did Black say?
He's at Hogwarts.
He's at Hogwarts. He's at Hogwarts. He's at Hogwarts. Okay? They assume that means Harry's at Hogwarts. Right? So, da-da-da-da-da. Next chapter, they go back to their dormitory. Harry sneaks back the way he came. And he's looking at the photo album that Hagrid had given him. Pictures of his family. Pictures of his parents' wedding day. And there's Sirius Black. Well, moving pictures. Not films, but... And he's thinking, Dementors don't affect him, they affect me. Top of 213. A hatred such as he had never known before was coursing through Harry like poison. What will poison do if it courses through you? It'll kill you. Okay? He could see Black laughing at him. He could, he watched as though somebody was playing him a piece of film. Sirius Black blasting Peter Pettigrew, who looked kind of like Neville, into 1,000 pieces. So, here he sees Ron and Hermione. Hermione, you don't look well, Harry. I'm fine. Harry, you got to be really upset about what we heard yesterday. Don't do anything stupid. Hermione's already told him, don't go looking for Sirius Black. Harry's like, well, I'd have to be stupid to do that. Like what? Like trying to go after Black. You won't, will you? Ron, Black's not worth dying for. And Harry's like, you don't know what I hear when I see those Dementors. I hear my mom dying. And notice, it's not just once. Every time he sees the Dementors, he hears his mother. And if you'd heard your mom screaming like that, just about to be killed, you wouldn't forget it in a hurry. And if you found out someone who was supposed to be her friend of hers betrayed her and turned her into Voldemort, Hermione, there's nothing you can do. Notice, she interrupts. Because where's Harry going? What's he doing?
He's spiraling.
He's creating a logical argument. If you heard what I heard, and you knew what I know, then you'd want to kill him too. Keep in mind, this comes after we've been told what's going on in Harry. Hatred coursing through his veins. Okay? Ron says, well, you want to kill Black or something? Hermione's like, don't be silly. Of course he doesn't. All right? So they start talking about Malfoy and such. Ron wants to play some chess, 216. And first he says, let's go visit Hagrid. Hermione says, we can't, we're confined. Harry's like, no, let's go visit Hagrid. Why? Hagrid knows. Okay? So they go down to visit Hagrid, and let me put it this way. What is Harry's state of mind when they go down to visit Hagrid?
He wants answers.
Okay, he wants answers. What else? Let me put it this way. What is Harry's emotional state? Has he calmed down? Is he totally at peace with the world? Is everything all... No, it's not, right? He still has hatred coursing through his veins. He wants one thing at this point. What? One word. Revenge. Revenge. When this book came out, all my terminology, Christian wackadoodles who came out of the woodwork wanting to crucify her, they're like, see, this is totally anti-Jesus because it's all about revenge. If they'd only finished the damn book, they would see it's not. Okay? Anyways, sorry, off my soapbox. I'm sure I'll get back up on in about 10, 15 seconds. So they go down to talk to Hagrid. They get ready to knock on the door and they hear a strange noise. What is it? Hagrid's crying. So imagine Hagrid, 10, 11 feet tall, crying. This is a loud, horrific sound. They go in, they see him, wipe face off and everything, and Hagrid shows them the letter. Bottom of 217, top of 218. Because a charge had been leveled against Buckbeak, and Hagrid is the owner of Buckbeak, there's going to be a trial for Buckbeak by the Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures. Notice the word that's in the title. Disposal. Kind of implies what?
They're gonna kill them.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to go before a jury that was titled,
Disposable of humans.
Jury for the Execution of Probable Criminals. You kind of go like, is this an impartial jury? Okay. So, Ron says, but Buckbeak isn't a bad hippogriff. I bet he'll get off. Hagrid, they've got it in for interesting creatures. Okay. And we see Buckbeak over there chomping on something that's oozing blood all over the floor. Notice, interesting creatures. And they keep talking. Hermione says, you'll have to put up a strong defense. I'm sure you can prove. What's the upshot of the conversation? What do Harry, Ron, and Hermione determine to do?
Save Buckbeak.
They're going to help Hagrid. They're going to go and do legal research, essentially. Okay? Bottom of 221. Hagrid says he hasn't felt so bad since he had to give up Norbert. Book 1. Okay? He talks about Azkaban, 220. Top of 221. You can't really remember who you are after a while, and you can see the point of living at all. I used to hope I'd just die in me sleep. When they let me out, it was like being born again. Everything came flooding out. In other words, when he was let out, it was like what said by a previous character in book 2. What did Dobby say about Harry's first defeat of the Dark Lord? It was like a light shining in the darkness. Harry was a beacon, that's a bright light, of hope. Hagrid had his own beacon of hope, only when he was released from Azkaban. So what's that telling us? That when he was in Azkaban, it was like light. Not literally pitch dark. Internally, it was pitch dark. Why? What do Dementors do to you? Suck all the happiness, hope, and joy. Where has Hagrid known happiness, hope, and joy? Hogwarts. So all that gets sucked out, and what's he left with? Only the bad stuff. Okay? So, bottom of 221. The trip to Hagrid's, though far from fun, had nevertheless had the effect Ron and Hermione had hoped. Though Harry had by no means forgotten about Black, he couldn't brood constantly on revenge if he wanted to help Hagrid with his case. What are we being told cannot coexist in an individual's heart, soul, mind, however you want to phrase it? Hate, right? His feeling towards Black, or revenge, and what can't coexist with hate? How do you describe his desire to help Hagrid? Compassion or love? got to be one or the other. When Harry goes down to Hagrid's, what's he focused on? Where is that hate? It's directed towards Sirius, but where is it? It's in Harry. His attention, his focus is on himself, his emotions. When he leaves Hagrid's, where is Harry's focus? It's on Hagrid. Okay? Notice the difference. Where is love directed? Ultimately, I would argue, you don't have to agree, you'll be wrong, but you don't have to agree. It's always directed where? Outwards. Real love. I don't mean romantic love necessarily. True love is always directed at the other, some other thing or person. It's not inward. If it's inward, what does it become?
Pride.
Keep going. You ever heard of this guy? Who fell in love with himself, with his reflection. We're going to see that name used in the next book.
Oh.
Narcissa,
Oh.
last name,
Malfoy.
Malfoy, bad faith. She does that, Rowling, does that, I think, partially. That's another little bit of a red herring. Red herring, something thrown to divert your attention. Why? Because what we're finally going to see, I'm going to give something away here. When we get to the end of book 7, Narcissa isn't a narcissist. She does have love. It's directed outward. It's not necessarily directed that far outwardly, but it is directed outwardly. Unlike, I think, her husband. Okay? So, he goes down ready to hunt bear, full of anger and hatred, and he walks back up. What's happened to the hatred? Momentarily, at least, it's gone. It's been replaced with love. Why does Harry always help people? Neville's Remember All, Draco in the Forest, Hermione, the people petrified, and things petrified. Mrs. Norris, kick the damn cat while it's frozen, you know? Nobody likes the cat except for Filch. I mean, Colin Creevy, really, kill him in book 2. Don't let us have to hold on to book 7, you know? He's always helping others. Why? Because his focus is always outward. You're going to see all 7 books, when Harry's focus is turned inward, bad stuff happens to him. Call it karma if you want, you know? He turns it outwards, and it's like, oh, the universe falls into place the way it should. Okay? So, Christmas comes. He gets another Weasley sweater, and a new broom, a firebolt. The one that he spent 2 weeks in Diagon Alley just drooling and lusting over. But he doesn't get to enjoy it. Why not?
Because it's from Sirius Black.
Nobody knows that.
Because Hermione told me.
Because little Miss Goody Two-Shoes had to go and blab to McGonagall. Why?
Because she was worried that there might be something in the broom track.
Because Hermione wasn't thinking of herself. She was thinking of Harry. What's Harry thinking with the firebolt? He's thinking of himself. He's thinking, I'm going to kick some serious you-know-what when I get out on the Quidditch pitch. Well, actually, it's not on the Quidditch pitch because they play in the air. It's kind of weird that they have to have a nicely trimmed lawn, when they're up in the air, you know. Anyways, so McGonagall takes it. And what happens to the 3 Musketeers?
They kind of break up for a bit.
Yeah, they kind of become the 2 Musketeers and the outsider. Little bit of foreshadowing, by the way. In other words, this little triumvirate, like almost as it were, aren't as secure as they could be. Because we're going to see it break again in book 4. And the break is going to be worse in book 4. It's going to be much worse in book 4. They're going to stay broken for a good 3 months, right? And then they get back together and everything's all fine until book 7. And then it just, take that nice little group and drop a nuke on it. 2 of them stick together and the third one out of the picture for quite a while. Okay? So, Christmas. We have Christmas dinner with McGonagall and Trelawney just sitting there like a, pardon my language, I don't mean to be sexist, but I am. Couple of old biddies doing what? Right? How should they be getting along? These are 2, okay, imagine you 3 are teachers, and the rest of you are all students. And you 3, and this is dinner, what are they doing? Shut up, McGonagall. No, you. That's kind of what they do back and forth. They just don't use that language. And Harry's going, ooh. I chalk one up to McGonagall. I mean, you don't want McGonagall on her bedside towards you, all right? The Patronus, chapter 12. So, Harry talks to Oliver Wood. He says, don't worry, I'll talk to McGonagall. She'll give it up. Why? With this broom, Quidditch Cup is ours. Lupin has his meeting with Harry. 236, 237. I've got to go fast. We're finishing this book no matter what tonight. Because that then, according to the schedule, only leaves us a day and a half for Goblet of Fire. Not going to work. So, 237. Lupin tells Harry, I'm going to teach you a spell that is highly advanced magic, well beyond ordinary wizarding levels. Ordinary wizarding levels, book 5, right? Those are the exams you have to take, okay? Harry, how does it work? Well, when it works correctly, it conjures up a Patronus. Kind of an anti-Dementor, or anti-D-Mentor. What is one of the basic quote-unquote rules of English grammar?
No double negative.
No double negatives. Total bullshit, by the way. Literally. Well, not literally, but figuratively, because we'd be stepping in it otherwise. Where's it come from? Anybody know? That rule comes from the 18th century, a bishop in the English church who promulgated it, proposed it. He wrote a grammar of the English language on the basis of Latin and mathematics. Primarily on the basis, not Latin, mathematics. Why?
Double negative.
-2 times -2 is
Positive.
4. They cancel out. So when you use a double negative, you're actually making a positive. No. When you use a double negative, I don't never want to do that, means what? I really don't want to do that. You'll actually see some authors, Shakespeare and Chaucer come to mind, who use triple negatives. So does that mean the first 2 cancel each other out so you do end up with the negative? No, it means I really, really, really don't. Okay? So, it's a kind of anti-Dementor. So it's a mentor, in other words, if you take the 2 negatives to be canceling each other out. A guardian that acts as a shield between you and the Dementor. But it's more than just a guardian. We're going to hear Patronuses referred to as guardians, protectors, deliverers, shields, saviors. There's actually going to be one usage of savior in the description of it. Like a patron of the arts is a supporter of the arts, a defender of the arts, a guardian of the arts, etc., etc. A patron saint. A saint, your saint that is supposed to protect you, defend you, etc., etc. So Harry sees himself hiding behind a big Hagrid-sized thing, pretty good defender. Positive force, projection of the very things that the Dementor feeds upon. Hope, happiness, and the desire to survive. All right? What's it look like? It's unique to each individual. Why? Why is a Dementor, why do I keep saying Dementor? Why is a Patronus, I don't have it, do I? No. Unique to each individual.
Because not everyone's happiness is the same, it's not projected the same.
Possibly. Why else? Have I talked about this before? I thought I did in reference to something else. 3 parts of the verb. Latin, expecto, prefix, root, suffix. The suffix indicates the agency of. The O indicates male agency, okay, or OR, right? If it were a female, it would be RESS or RISS. That's not sexist language. It's just indicating if you have a male agent or a female agent, okay? X out of pect. What's pect mean? Like pectoral. Out of the chest. What? The Patronus. That's why it's individual to each person. It comes from what you have inside. Okay? And it's interesting because Lupin is going to say, I don't think he says it here, he's going to say in one of the lessons he has with Harry's that it takes, or it might be in the Grim Defeat chapter, can't remember which. He's going to say it takes real strength of character to produce it. Which is kind of interesting because in the next book, Goblet of Fire, Harry's going to have lessons with Professor Moody, very first Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson. Moody's going to attempt to put students, or he's going to put students, under the Imperious Curse. One of the unforgivable curses. All right? And he calls Harry up, and he tells them it takes strength of character to do this. And on Harry's, I think it's his 4th try, might be his 5th, I think it's his 4th try, Harry repels the Imperious Curse. Now, this is a curse, the Imperious Curse, that it's kind of implied the vast majority of witches and magicians can't repel. We're going to be told this spell, okay, the Patronus charm, is one that, again, not many fully, what's the term he uses? Not authorized, not registered, capable, so to speak, witches and wizards, wizards can't do. Harry's going to do it. 3rd year, all right? In fact, we're going to see in book 5, people are going to be blown away that Harry could do this at 13 years old. So, he tells them how you do it. And this is one of the things I wish you wouldn't have done. It's just kind of trite. So what are the 2 things you have to do in order to produce a Patronus? There's words.
You have to think of your most happiest memory.
Okay, so you have to think of your happy thought. Trite, almost Disney-esque. It's like, think Tinkerbell with the pixie dust, happy thoughts. And expecto patronum, okay? So what's Harry's happy thought? Page 328. He's thinking. What's his happy thought? No. He tried to keep his mind on flying. The first time he flew, it's like, oh, I'm a natural. Okay? But it doesn't work, so he's got to come up with a different happy thought. What's the problem with the happy thought thing?
He doesn't have very many.
Well, he doesn't have very many to choose from. What else?
Someone's version of a happy thought.
It's not very objective. Can't it shift from moment to moment? And so it's kind of implied, no, you got to get the right happy thought. Kind of like there is should I go there? Yeah, I will. Like there is a right interpretation of the prophecy or of any prophecy. Okay? Just let that hang there. So, here he thinks, 238. Any second now, he might hear his mother again. But he shouldn't think that, or he would hear her again. Right? Not a happy thought. And he didn't want to. Or did he? Does Harry want to hear his mother again? What's he going to hear? No, not Harry. Take me. Please, take me. Not Harry. Please, show mercy. Show mercy. Is that ever going to change? No. That's what he's going to keep hearing. It's never going to be, Harry, I love you. Unless, I don't know, maybe it goes farther and farther and farther back. But that's not the case. So, he hears his mother again. Lupin wakes him up. Has him eat some chocolate. Harry, it's getting worse. I could hear her louder this time. And him, Voldemort. Hey, if you want to stop, Harry, Harry, no, I've got to. Why? Why does he have to learn to do this? Again, how important is Quidditch in the overall story? Zip! He should want to do this. Why? So if he ever comes up against Dementors again, it might be useful. Okay? But he doesn't think of that. So he does it again in 240. Lily, take Harry and go. It's him. Go, run. I'll hold him off with, we find out much later. Come on, Voldemort, you and me. Mono is snickamano kind of thing. I heard my dad. It's the first time I've ever heard him. Not true. He heard him for the first 15 months of his life. He just doesn't remember hearing him. He tried to take on Voldemort. You heard James? You didn't know? Yes, I did. We were friends, in fact. Okay? So now he's got to think of a really good, really happy memory. Because the last one wasn't good enough. The moment he found out he was a wizard and would be leaving the Dursleys for Hogwarts. Probably what helped that one is, Dudley with the little pigtail sticking out his butt. And what happens? The Dementor halts. He still kind of hears the voices, but it's all staticky and not clear. Good job, Harry. Harry, come on, one more time. Why? That was the third one. Harry's suggesting, come on, one more. One more, and I'll do a full Patronus. He does, by the way, on his next one. So, actually, I take that back. Lupin, not now, you've had enough. Harry, bottom of 242. If you knew my dad, you must have known Sirius Black, too. What makes you what gives you that idea? He kind of, gets all, sorry, just, they were friends. Yes, I knew him, or thought I did. You better go off, Harry. So Harry goes off. 243. Go away from my door. 243. Harry's thinking to himself. Terrible though it was to hear his parents' last moments replayed inside his head, these were the only times Harry had heard their voices since he was a very small child. But he'd never be able to produce a proper Patronus if he half wanted to hear his parents again. Again, what does he see when he looks in the mirror of Erised? The whole family. They're dead, he told himself sternly. And I think that means literally, he says out loud, they're dead. Why? There's a difference between thinking saying something and saying something. Because when you say it, it gets reinforced with your hearing it. They're dead, and listening to echoes of them won't bring them back. You better get a grip on yourself if you want that Quidditch cup. Right? Look at the term he uses. Listening to echoes of them. What's the difference between what he's hearing and echoes? Echoes only repeat the last bit of sound, right? Echoes do not repeat sentences. He's getting sentences. He's getting to the point where he's going to start having paragraphs. Okay? Why belabor this point? We're going to hear the word echoes used at the end of the next book to describe things Harry hears and sees. And my question to you is, when that word echoes is used at the end of the next book, is the person who uses the term right or wrong? Are the things that Harry experiences echoes? Okay? So, he goes off to play Ravenclaw. Actually, before that, another lesson with Lupin. And Harry asks, what's under a Dementor's hood? Lupin says, nobody knows. Why? Because you only see when they give you the kiss. Well, what's that? It's where they suck your soul out through your mouth. Harry, oh, okay. What, they kill? No. No, there's a lot of things worse than death, Harry. Much worse than that. You can exist without your soul, as long as your brain and heart are still working. Really? How? Persistent vegetative state? Though today, when that diagnosis is used, it's usually given for someone who has no brain waves being recorded. There have been, over the last, 25, 30 years, there have been about a half dozen cases that I can think of where someone who's been in a coma for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, one morning wakes up. And that person has been determined to be brain dead. And yet the family keeps him or her on life support. Take them off life support, they die. Sometimes you take them off life support and the old bird just keeps on kicking, But no brainwaves. One in particular I'm thinking of is a guy, 20, 25 years old, massive car wreck, determined to be brain dead, family didn't want to give up. They pulled the plug and he stayed alive. That is his body, but no brainwaves. Guy wakes up like 20 years later. He's 40 or 45 years old. And again, there's been like a half dozen of these. Guy wakes up and, they're aware that he's awake. His eyes are moving. They ask questions. He blinks to indicate yes, no kind of thing. Can't talk because he hasn't talked for 20 years. Muscle memory and all that kind of stuff. When he can finally talk again, a couple months, I think, they ask him if he has any recollections of what happened. They mean the car accident. He says, I heard everything. Everything that was said around my bed, I heard. I heard the conversations about, do we pull the plug or not? And he says, and I couldn't do anything because he wasn't conscious, but he remembers hearing it all. And he was like, everything in me said, no, don't pull the plug. I'm still here. But, okay, that's kind of what he's talking about with one big distinction. What comes before the verb hear there or heard? I. This state has no I anymore. Okay? So it's even the vegetative state doesn't quite work. Harry, he deserves it. Really, Harry? You think anybody deserves that? Now, what does anybody include? Even Voldemort. Anybody means what? Really? Everybody. Nobody Lupin seems to be suggesting there are some people who don't. Harry's like, oh yeah, he does. For what he did? Yeah. He deserves it. Okay? Lupin's like, okay. So, they have their match. Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw. I'm going to skip a bunch. Who shows up at the game? Match. Top 262. 3 Dementors. Tall, black-hooded. Harry didn't even stop to think. Expecto Patronum. Something silver-white, something enormous erupted from the end of his wand. He knew it shot directly at the Dementors, but didn't pause to watch. Why? He wants to get the snitch. Notice, are we told what the thing was that... Is that because it didn't have a shape? Or is it because Harry didn't look at it long enough to see what its shape was? Okay? Harry says, Lupin, Dementors didn't affect me at all. I didn't feel a thing. And it's because they weren't Dementors, Harry. It's like, good job, Harry. But wasn't really fair, you know. Who was it? Malfoy, Marcus Flint, and Crabbe or Goyle. It doesn't matter which one. Well, 4 of them. Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, and Flint. Okay. Chapter 14, Snape's Grudge. Okay. What do we find out at the end of the previous chapter, before Snape's Grudge? Who screwed up again? Who got through Sir Cadogan? Well, we don't know who got through. We know somebody got through. How? Because Neville left his list of passwords lying around. Okay? Snape's Grudge. Harry, Ron, Hermione, page 272, get a note from Hagrid wanting to meet with them. Trying to see if they've found anything that will help him in his case. They haven't. Harry sneaks off to Hogsmeade. Meets up Ron and Hermione. Ron kind of gets cornered, so to speak, by Crabbe and Goyle and Malfoy later on. Harry's with them. And Harry decides to play a practical joke. So Malfoy's talking to Ron. And what does Harry do? Under the invisibility cloak. Picks up a handful of mud. And bam! Hits Malfoy right in the back of the head. Turns around. What does he see? Harry Potter's head floating in midair. Harry doesn't realize it when he leans down to pick up the mud. The invisibility cloak falls off. Malfoy screams. Harry runs. Okay? Gets back to Hogwarts and gets caught. He and Ron both get caught by Snape, 282, 283. Snape explains what happens. Harry said Malfoy must be seeing things. He needs to get his head examined. Okay? 284. Snape says, you know, you're just like your father. Here are all these people trying to save you, trying to protect you, top of 284, from Sirius Black. But no. Famous Harry Potter is a law unto himself. Let the ordinary people worry about his safety. Famous Harry Potter goes where he wants, with no thought of the consequences. What's he suggesting about Harry? What's he suggesting about Harry's thought about himself?
And Harry's full of himself.
Kind of a Superman, not the guy in tights, but the Nietzschean idea of someone who, the common laws that affect all of us, no. He can't be held to those. How extraordinarily like your father you are. He too was exceedingly arrogant. Have we seen Harry anywhere really show arrogance? No, we haven't. Small amount of talent on a Quidditch pitch made him think he was a cut above the rest of us. Strutting around the place. My dad didn't strut. How does Harry know that? He doesn't. It's just family, loyalty. Neither do I. Your father didn't set much store by rules either. Rules were for lesser mortals. His head was so swollen. Shut up! He's on his feet. Rage. What did you say? I told you to shut up, so he repeats it. About my dad. I know the truth all right. What's the truth he knows? He saved your life. It's pretty much all he was told by Dumbledore. So Snape says, and did Dumbledore tell you the circumstances? In other words, did you get the whole story? And Harry's silent. So, he tells him the story. Your father, notice, your saintly father, because that's how Harry pictures his father, and his friends played a highly amusing joke on me that could have resulted in my death if your father hadn't got cold feet. Notice, your father was chicken to let the joke play out. Was he? Or was he wise and merciful to not let the joke? What was the joke?
Sirius Black Snape knew something was up with
Lupin and the Whomping Willow.
So Sirius Black told him to go follow him or something, and Snape tried to get close to the Whomping Willow, almost got killed, and James Potter saved him.
Yeah, he didn't let him get to the Whomping Willow. He said, stop. Because what would have happened? One of two things could have happened to him. The Whomping Willow could have killed him.
Or Lupin.
Or Lupin. In his, self. Okay? To get to the end. So, he tells Harry to pull out his pockets. Empty his pockets. Which Harry's already rubbed all the mud off in his pockets. So he pulls out a blank piece of parchment. Lupin thinks there's got to be something magical. Snape thinks there's got to be something magical. Taps it, gives it commands. And the parchment says, Mr. Mooney presents his compliments to Professor Snape, begs him to keep his abnormally large nose out of other people's business. Page 287. Mr. Prongs agrees with Mr. Mooney and would like to add that Professor Snape is an ugly git. Mr. Padfoot would like to register his astonishment that an idiot like that ever became a professor. Mr. Wormtail bids Professor Snape good day, advises him to wash his hair, the slime ball. All ad hominem attacks against the man is what that means. They're attacking Snape for how he looks or appears. All right? Who uses ad hominem attacks? Someone who doesn't have an argument to make. Or teenagers. Or intellectual teenagers. Okay? He calls Lupin. Lupin shows up. Lupin says, it's a joke. I mean, come on. It's not dark magic. Snape assumes it's dark magic. Snape leaves. And what does Lupin reveal? A couple of things. Yeah, I know all about the map. I know what it shows. I knew the makers. And then he lays it on thick. Page 290 on Harry. Don't expect me to cover up for you again. Cannot make you take Sirius Black seriously, but I would have thought that what you have heard when the Dementors draw near you would have had more of an effect on you. Your parents gave their lives to keep you alive, Harry. Poor way to repay them, gambling their sacrifice for a bag of magic tricks. Gambling what? Really? Don't say your sacrifice. What did he really gamble for a bag of magic tricks?
His life.
His life. Okay? Which was their sacrifice. They gave their lives. Greater love hath no man than that he is willing to lay down his life for a friend, for their son. Okay? Quidditch final. Hermione gets a note from Hagrid. We lost. Buckbeak's gonna die. Okay. Malfoy makes some comments. Harry has Trelawney again. We're gonna skip a bunch. Da-da-da-da-da-da. They win the Quidditch final and the Quidditch Cup. Chapter 16, Trelawney's prediction. End of year or end of term exams. Okay. Defense against the dark arts, pretty simple. Defeat the boggart. Hermione fails. Okay. Harry goes off to Trelawney's class. Looks in the crystal ball. What does he see? A hippogriff. Predicting the future, right? She's like, really? Well, it could be Hagrid's troubles. And then he hears, page 324, he's gathered his stuff, he's getting ready to go out the circular trapdoor thing. It will happen tonight. Sorry? Her eyes rolling backwards. The Dark Lord lies alone and friendless, abandoned by his followers. The servant has been chained these 12 years. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will break free and set out to rejoin his master. The Dark Lord will rise again with the servant's aid, greater and more terrible than ever he was. Tonight, before midnight, and play it again. Question. Who's the servant? Don't answer it. Just asking the question. I want you to think about this question. Who's the servant? Notice, because the servant has been chained for 12 years, right? So Harry tells Trelawney, when she kind of comes back to herself, whatever that means, tells her what she said. She says, dear boy, I would never make such a preposterous prediction, okay? They go down to Hagrid's. And what happens?
Buckbeak's about to be executed.
Buckbeak's about to be executed, and they hear the thunk. Buckbeak is executed. What else? Who shows up?
Malfoy. Or Minister,
At Hagrid's?
no.
McNair, okay, is there. Who else shows up? Or who do they find? We put it that way. Who's been missing? Scabbers has been missing. And there's Scabbers in Hagrid's hut. Who else shows up? Crookshanks and Dog. So they leave. Ron gets pounced on, okay, dragged by this big dog into the Whomping Willow. So Harry and Hermione follow. The dog chases Scabbers and Crookshanks. They go through the Whomping Willow, and where do they find they are? The Shrieking Shack, which is supposedly what? The most haunted house in Britain. There's a lot of places in Britain that are called the most haunted house. So, what do they see? What's the kind of the tableau, the image they get when they get up to the room where Ron is? Ron's on a bed, Scabbers scurrying down in his pocket as deep as he can go. What else? Where'd the dog go? Ron's like, and there behind them is Sirius Black. Okay? Page 338 and following. Harry, it's a trap. What? He's the dog. He's an animagus. All right? Sirius takes their wands. Page 340. Sirius says there will be one murder here tonight. Hold on just one second. Back up to 339. Stop. Hermione, Ron says to Sirius, bottom of 339, if you want to kill Harry, you have to kill us too. That's a way of saying what?
If you want to get to Harry, you'll have to go through us first.
We're willing to die for Harry. Greater love again. Though the effort, he said fiercely, though the effort of standing upright was draining him of still more color. Because Ron had done what? Ron moves himself over, broken leg, in front of Harry. Sirius, lie down. You'll damage that leg even more. What do they, quote unquote, know about Sirius Black?
And he's this crazy mass murderer.
He killed 13 muggles in Peter Pettigrew. Why does he care about some punk's leg? Really? I mean, if you're a mass murderer, you don't go, oh, I'm so sorry, Angie. Lay down, let me get you some tea or something. No, it's, kill him now. But he doesn't do that. Why does Rowling include that?
To show that Sirius Black is not who we thought he was this whole time.
Yeah, it's a little clue of, open your eyes. Okay? So he says there will be only one murder here tonight. Right? Harry, why? Gotten soft, etc., etc. Hermione's like, Harry, shut up. Don't anger the crazy mass murderer. He killed my mom and dad, and what does Harry do?
Breaks free from Ron and Hermione.
Forgetting magic. Forgetting he's a wizard. What's he going to do? Little short, nice casting by the way, little midget Daniel Radcliffe, I mean literally he's like this tall, right? Jumps at Sirius Black, who's 6 foot, 6'2". Okay, he's a little thin, but he's fattened up a bit over the last year, okay, since escaping, and takes his wand from him. With the help of Hermione, who trips him, okay? So now Black is sprawled at the bottom of the wall, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione are all pointing their wands at him. Now we learn in book 4, if it's a point, if it's worthwhile mentioning, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, if they wanted to kill Sirius Black, would they be able to at this point? No. Moody tells an entire classroom of Defense Against the Dark Arts students, you could all pull your wands out and try Avada Kedavra on me, and I probably wouldn't get as much as a nosebleed. And there's a reason for that, okay, which we'll talk about later. So, Sirius says, yes, I as good as killed your parents, but if you knew the whole story, okay? So, they hear a noise, footsteps. Hermione says, we're up here. Who does she think she's talking to? Help?
Yeah.
Okay. And up comes Lupin. Wand out. And he says what? Oh, thank God I got here in time to save you three from this horrible mass murderer. Where is he, Sirius? Hermione interprets that to mean,
Harry.
nope. Harry's right in front of her.
Voldemort,
Nope.
Snape.
Nope.
Or yeah, oh yeah, at this point.
Nope. Where is he, Sirius? He's calling someone that Harry thought he hated first name. Hermione takes that one question to assume that Lupin and Black are what?
Friends.
They're in cahoots. They're friends still. And she just rattles off several major things. Okay? All implying, I know who / what you are. And she finally blurts it out, middle of 345. He's a werewolf. Why does she say that?
Because he is a werewolf.
Because he is.
She figured it out a long time ago.
Okay, true. So, it's like saying, she's a woman. Yeah, so, big deal. Why is that important?
She's trying to gain leverage that, like, I trusted you, okay.
Okay, maybe a little. Does prejudice only occur between or within a species? No. Oh, Lupin is within their species, right? He's human. But he suffers from werewolfism, all right? What's the point? She looks down on him because he's a werewolf. But really, not until this point. How do we know that's what's going on? Ron, get away from me, werewolf! He doesn't say, get away from me, Lupin. Get away from me, Professor. Get away from me, scum of the world, low life. We get introduced to the idea of the prejudice against werewolves, which honestly, speaking for myself, there probably would not have a problem with prejudice against werewolves, especially, the day of the month when they come out in full color, living color and stuff, want to eat you. Totally rational. But Lupin's going to explain why that's so problematic. When he came to Hogwarts, let me back up. What condition was he in when he came to Hogwarts as a student? He already had the werewolfism. He'd been bitten as a baby, I think it was. And he says, Dumbledore gave me a place. He'd already told Harry the Whomping Willow was planted when?
When he was a student.
When he first came. Why did Dumbledore do that? So he'd have a place to go to every month to transform into. Why do people think the Shrieking Shack is haunted?
Because they're werewolves.
Because they hear him screaming bloody murder. Okay? So, we just skipped a bunch of information. Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. They finished the previous chapter talking about Scabbers. Well, it's like, what's Scabbers got to do with it? Oh, no, it's not a rat. It's Peter Pettigrew, okay? Lupin, Black pulls out his wand. He's getting ready to blast Peter Pettigrew. Where is Peter Pettigrew?
And Ron's pocket.
Yeah, you can't do it. They gotta know. They gotta understand, okay? So, Hermione says, 351, he can't be Pettigrew. He just can't. It can't be true. You know it can't. Why can't it? From Hermione's perspective. Because Ron's already said, he's not Scabbers. He's my rat. I've had him for years. He slept with me. You, don't go there. Why can't he be Peter Pettigrew?
Because they think Peter Pettigrew's dead.
That's not the reason Hermione gives.
Oh, because he's not, in her knowledge, he's not an animal.
He's not an animagus. How does she know he's not an animagus?
She's never seen him change.
Nope.
It's not in the record.
It's not written in a book that he's an animagus. Because the Ministry for Magic keeps tabs and has a book with all the names of animagi in it. Question. Is McGonagall in the book?
Yes.
Are we told that in these books?
No.
Another question, which I don't know the answer to, and I don't know if there is an answer to it. Is Dumbledore an animagus?
No.
I'm just asking, okay? Okay, so, don't have enough time. So, they say he is. When did they become animagi? Skipping a bunch. They started in their third year. Who are the they?
The Marauders.
Peter Pettigrew,
James Potter.
Sirius Black, Remus Lupin. They started in their third year.
Figured out 5th year?
Figured it out in their 5th year. All right? Why did they do it?
Because a werewolf does not attack animals, so.
Is it that? It's so they could keep him company. Lupin tells us at that time, before the Wolfsbane potion, his transformations were extremely painful. All right? They helped kind of reduce the pain. He doesn't have the potion. He still transforms, but they help him kind of focus. They go off into the Forbidden Forest and do, things. Okay, kids, think about this for a moment. A werewolf, a big giant black dog, a stag, those 3 animals are going to be able to cover a lot of territory, right? What's the 4th one?
A rat.
A rat. Like he's going to keep up with them, or one of them carries them on his back. Anyways. the servant of Lord Voldemort, right? Snape shows up. What does Snape do? He's like, got him. I'm going to get credit for capturing Sirius Black. Lupin's going to get caught as well, etc. Harry tells Snape again to shut up. He calls him pathetic. Why? Because Harry now, partially at least, is believing the story. Okay? So, Harry, Ron, and Hermione do what to Snape?
Just on him all the time.
They use a spell. They use Expelliarmus. What's Hermione thinking?
Oh, no.
We're dead. We're expelled. Okay? And they force Peter Pettigrew to transform. Page 368. Sirius says, "You haven't been hiding from me for 12 years. The servant of the Dark Lord has been chained for 12 years. Who is the servant?"
Peter Pettigrew.
Okay. He says, "You've been hiding from Voldemort's supporters." And they go on. He says, "The reason you didn't do anything against Harry is because you never did anything unless there was something in it for you. What would you have gotten if you killed Harry Potter?" Okay. Lupin and Black forgive each other. I'm going to stop with this. Yeah, I got to stop there. Okay. Goblet of Fire, Tuesday. I'm going to spend 10 minutes on this. It'll probably be half an hour. I am going to put a quiz up over all of this. I'll put it up today. It'll be due probably Wednesday evening. Okay?